I had nobody again to talk to, but the times now were even deeper than they ever were in my life.
You said in the New York Times Magazine, I'm a very forgiving person, but there's one thing I could never be a part of, and that one thing happened.
Wendy Williams was once one of the most influential voices on television, commanding millions of viewers with her sharp commentary and unapologetic opinions. But now, the woman who coined the catchphrase, "How you doin'?" is battling something far bigger than celebrity feuds. Her life has become a whirlwind of lawsuits, betrayal, and exploitation. It's no secret that Wendy's been going through some incredibly rough times lately. But the shocking details behind it all are finally coming to light, and let us tell you, it's worse than anyone could have imagined.
You know, quite frankly, I see a period as a burden. I can't wait until it's over. I'm not scared of menopause at all.
How does a woman who built an empire and became a household name end up nearly penniless, isolated, and cut off from her family? Let's dive into the drama that has turned Wendy Williams' life into a living nightmare. And trust us, the deeper you go, the more scandalous it gets. First, let's talk about this so-called documentary that aired on Lifetime. Where is Wendy Williams? You'd think a documentary about her life would highlight her incredible career or her legendary talk show moments, right? Wrong. It was anything but a celebration of Wendy's achievements. Instead, the show depicted her in a humiliating light, showing her at her lowest points. Clips of her looking confused, disoriented, and unkempt were plastered all over the screen. It was gut-wrenching to watch, especially for her loyal fans who remember Wendy at the height of her success.
Taking advantage of the dysfunction. Why do you want to document somebody's downfall?
And here's the kicker. Wendy was credited as an executive producer of this documentary, even though she didn't actually have any say in it. Yeah, that's right. Her so-called team signed off on this without her consent, and the worst part, they made millions from it. Wendy, she was paid a measly $82,000 for the whole thing. $82,000 for a documentary that was broadcast to millions of viewers and raked in enormous profits for the network. Sounds like exploitation to us.
About keeping me away from my money. This is not right. And you know this is not fair.
Wendy's legal guardian, Sabrina Morrissey, has filed a lawsuit claiming that Wendy didn't even have the mental capacity to agree to the documentary. She was diagnosed with primary progressive aphasia and frontotemporal dementia, conditions that severely impair her ability to communicate and think clearly. So how in the world was she supposed to make decisions about a project that exposed her vulnerabilities to the entire world? Morrissey didn't hold back in the court documents, either. She outright accused the producers of shamelessly exploiting Wendy, making millions at her expense while portraying her as a laughingstock and someone who was responsible for her own suffering. The lawsuit goes on to allege that Wendy was incapacitated and unable to consent to any filming, let alone being portrayed in such a devastating way.
Signing her up for projects she would never do in her right mind.
And this isn't just some baseless claim. There are quotes from people close to Wendy, her son, her family, and even some of her former team, who have all said they had no idea this documentary was happening in the way it did. They weren't consulted, they weren't involved, and they certainly weren't happy about how Wendy was shown. To add insult to injury, Wendy didn't even see the documentary before it aired. Can you imagine that? A film about your own life, about your struggles and your downfall, airing for millions to see, and you don't even get the chance to approve it. Sabrina Morrissey tried to block the release of the documentary, but Lifetime pushed forward anyway, claiming it was protected under free speech.
It ended because of the negligence of her production company in regards to realizing how severe her health was.
What's worse is that Wendy wasn't just humiliated on screen. She's been dealing with humiliation in her personal life as well. Let's rewind a bit to her messy divorce from Kevin Hunter. Wendy was married to Kevin for over 20 years, and for much of that time, he was also her manager. Now, when you hear that, you might think, well, at least he was by her side during her rise to fame. But let's not give Kevin too much credit. He was cheating on Wendy for years, all while she was dealing with personal hardships and health issues. And not only did he have a long-term affair, but he even fathered a child with another woman. Wendy filed for divorce in 2019, and although that might seem like the end of their troubles, it was only the beginning. Kevin Hunter didn't just walk away quietly. No, he's been demanding money from Wendy ever since the divorce. And here's the real kicker. Even though they're no longer married, Kevin's been trying to get Wendy to pay him spousal support. He's been crying to the court, saying he's been financially struggling since their split. And get this, he claims he hasn't received any payments from Wendy since early 2020. Since early 2022, he's essentially trying to bleed her dry while she's at her lowest point, and he's not even hiding it.
What do you do when you find out your marriage is about to be all the way over?
To make matters worse, Wendy's finances are completely out of her control right now. Due to her cognitive decline, her accounts were frozen by Wells Fargo, and she was placed under court-ordered guardianship in 2022. The bank claimed they were worried Wendy was being exploited and was at risk of financial abuse. It's wild to think that the same woman who had complete control over her career is now in a position where she can't even access her own money. And yet, somehow, Kevin Hunter believes he's entitled to a piece of that.
Concerns over her ability to make financial decisions, and they froze all her assets. So she cannot do the simplest things like...
But let's not forget that Wendy's financial situation didn't just go downhill overnight. It's been a slow, painful process, made worse by the people who should have been looking out for her. Wendy has long struggled with various health issues, including Graves' disease and lymphedema, and those battles took her off the air for extended periods. Even after she stepped away from her talk show, The Wendy Williams Show, the network kept it going with guest hosts until its final episode in 2022. But as her health deteriorated, Wendy's ability to manage her affairs did too. This is where things really started to spiral.
And you was sitting on her lap in that picture, and now you jumped off the lap, and now you don't got nothing to say.
They were very
I'm sending her healing energy.
They were very close back in the day.
Her finances were frozen after a series of strange events. Her financial advisor, Lori Schiller, raised concerns that Wendy might be the victim of financial exploitation. Wells Fargo acted swiftly, cutting off her access to millions of dollars and requesting that a guardian be appointed to manage her assets. Wendy fired Schiller, accusing her of improper conduct, but the damage had already been done. Her money was locked away, and the court appointed Sabrina Morrissey to oversee Wendy's financial and medical decisions.
Right? And let's be clear, they took clear advantage of her as well, like in the state that she was in.
Now, while it's true that Wendy's health has taken a serious toll, the idea that she's being exploited by those closest to her isn't exactly far-fetched. Take her former manager, Will Selby, for example. He's been involved in all sorts of questionable decisions lately, including the arrangement of the documentary deal. Selby's been listed as having full creative control over Wendy's media projects, but his role has come under heavy scrutiny. Some of Wendy's fans have accused him of taking advantage of her vulnerable state, especially after it was revealed that he had a major hand in pushing the documentary forward, despite its controversial content.
Do this deal, and you hear somebody else say that she's losing memory, so how we know that she even knows that she's in the right frame of mind to even know what she's doing?
And speaking of that documentary, let's not forget the wild scenes that had viewers cringing. There's one particularly troubling moment where Wendy visits her hometown of Asbury Park, New Jersey. She points out the house she grew up in, only for a stranger to inform her she's actually on the wrong street. Then there's another scene where she demands her driver buy her vape pens, and when he hesitates, she reportedly throws a tantrum. These are the moments that got broadcast to millions, moments of confusion and distress, and they've only added to the speculation that Wendy is being used for profit by those around her.
Wendy is at a facility doing her best to be her best. She's taking it day by day. People forget that she deals with Graves' disease.
So where does that leave Wendy now? She's largely out of the public eye, living in a facility where she's receiving care for her cognitive issues. Family members have said that Wendy's made some progress, but they've also expressed frustration that they don't have more direct access to her. Sabrina Morrissey, as Wendy's guardian, holds most of the power when it comes to who gets to see her and how she's cared for. It's a situation that's left her son, Kevin Jr., in particular, deeply concerned. Kevin Jr. has been vocal about his worries for his mother. He's previously mentioned that doctors warned Wendy's excessive lifestyle had started to take a toll on her brain. He's also expressed doubts about the people managing her affairs now, suggesting that their motives might not be entirely pure. In the documentary, Kevin Jr. opens up about his concerns, but even he couldn't stop the storm brewing around his mother. And now, Wendy's reportedly planning to fight back. Sources close to her have hinted that she's gearing up to sue the network and all the individuals responsible for the documentary. If this is true, it would mark a major turning point in her battle to regain control of her life. But considering her current health situation, it remains to be seen just how involved she can be in the legal proceedings. Still, it's clear that Wendy isn't giving up without a fight, and her fans are rooting for her to make a comeback. Not just to television, but to a life where she's no longer being used and manipulated by those around her.
Wendy Williams was spotted for the first time in over a year shopping at a holistic store in New Jersey.
The question is, will she ever be able to truly escape the people who have exploited her? With so many players involved, from ex-husbands to former managers, from banks to media networks, Wendy's road to recovery is filled with obstacles. But one thing's for sure, this is a story that's far from over. The world is waiting to see if Wendy can rise above the chaos and reclaim her throne. What do you think? Will Wendy be able to turn the tables on those who've wronged her? And if she does make a return, what kind of revenge could we expect from the queen of daytime talk? Let's hear your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to stay tuned for more updates on Wendy's journey. It's bound to be one wild ride.